shooting time is limited since both star and cameraman are holding their breath. Cousteau is driven by the thought of staying longer undersea. He imagines a portable breathing device. If it works, the three friends will be able to roam the ocean freely and see things never seen before.
More than 40 years have passed since Jacques Cousteau first dreamed of a device that would allow him to stay underwater for extended periods. Since that time, of course, the crews have streamlined and they've improved the diving equipment. Now, this gear now, this is being tested for use aboard Calypso. But this remains the real key to scuba diving, the regulator that feeds compressed air to the divers in amounts that equalize the pressure within the body to the pressure of the surrounding water, automatically, regardless of depth. The appearance of regulators has varied over the years, but the mechanics remain basically the same as Cousteau's original invention. Today, there are millions of divers, and yet perhaps few are aware of how scuba diving was born. The original invention was carried out in secrecy, and the story went unreported. The news was dominated not by the conquest of the sea, but by the calamity of war.
In 1942, as Hitler's forces are poised to seize the French fleet, it is scuttled by the French themselves. Navy officer Cousteau now has no navy. He joins the resistance, continuing his diving as a cover for intelligence work. In occupied Paris that year, he meets engineer Émile Gagnon. The two work on Cousteau's idea for a breathing device. In January of 1943, the first aqualung is tested in the Marne River near Paris. Watched by a handful of friends, one of whom takes 2 snapshots, Cousteau becomes history's first scuba diver. The following summer, Taillez, Dumas, and several companions joined Cousteau along the French Riviera for ocean tests of his diving device. In the first aqualung film, Cousteau's camera records a revolutionary event. Men swimming deep in the sea, like marine animals. Suddenly at home in the sea, men who once speared fish turn to feeding them. Don't kill, Cousteau says. Watch them live. The team searches for sunken ships. Before this, few people had seen a shipwreck at the bottom of the sea. The divers explore like curious children, find the ship's wheel and the captain's bathtub. They come to be known as menfish. Yet for Cousteau, there is a more apt analogy. Underwater, he says, man becomes an archangel. The young man who dreamed of becoming a pilot finds he can fly in the sea. When the war ends, a new life begins for Cousteau. Briefly, Cousteau's camera is directed at military subjects. Taillez, Dumas, and Cousteau form an underwater research group within the French Navy. Their equipment consists of 3 aqualungs, masks, and fins. To promote diving and feed their families, the team demonstrates the usefulness of their equipment. They make the first film record of mines being laid underwater and help clear French harbors of hidden explosives. They recover live German torpedoes and film a Frenchman.
We were aware of dangers. We were aware of the limitations of diving, and we tried all the time to flirt with the limits. And we knew it was fairly dangerous.
In 1947, the team studies diving physiology, descending to 300 feet and beyond to understand the effects of hazards such as the bends and nitrogen narcosis. The experiments define depth limits still followed by divers today. Then their first rendezvous with a shark. Accustomed to timid fish, Dumas approaches fearlessly, even tries to catch its tail. But suddenly, the creature charges Cousteau, who fends it off at the last moment with his camera.
We're not daredevils, and I'm not a daredevil. I hate danger. But once we have taken all the precautions, there always remains a certain dose of danger that we have to deal with.
Perhaps Cousteau's closest call comes in an inland water cave, the famed Fountain of Vaucluse in southern France. The team hopes to learn why the mysterious deep pool erupts once each year in a furious flood. Cousteau and Dumas will lead in the first penetration. They descend, unaware that the tanks on their backs hold a deadly surprise. Suddenly and mysteriously, 200 feet deep in the cave, both men are in trouble. Their bodies weak, consciousness ebbing away. Dumas passes out. Cousteau struggles desperately for the surface, dragging Dumas behind. Cousteau emerges in a daze, baffled by the strange effect. Dumas must be carried from the water, lost in a stupor. Hours later, the problem is found. A faulty air compressor has tainted their tanks with lethal carbon monoxide. They are lucky to be alive. Today, Frédéric Dumas, Philippe Taillez, and Cousteau recall the near tragedy. It was our greatest risk, Taillez says. It is extraordinary, Dumas says, that we did not all stay in that cave. I didn't see the light when I came out. Yet you appeared lucid, Jacques. I was terrorized, Cousteau says. What gave me courage was the feeling your life depended on me. That gave me a formidable courage. By 1950, the team dreams of acquiring a ship for ocean exploration. On the island of Malta, Cousteau finds a converted minesweeper, now used as a ferry boat. It carries 11 cars and 400 people. Its name is Calypso.
In Homer's book, The Odyssey, the original Calypso was a beautiful maiden who kept Ulysses a captive for 7 years. This Calypso has kept my father for 35 years.
She has begun as J826, a wooden minesweeper built in Seattle, christened in 1942 by a schoolgirl, leased to the British for war duty in the Mediterranean. 9 years later, in Antibes, France, she's launched again, a warrior turned explorer. The purchase of Calypso has been financed by a British philanthropist. He exacts from my father 2 promises: never to reveal his identity and never to ask for money. In the winter of 1951, an excited crew sets out on the first cruise. The fierce storm hits only 3 days later. A quick lesson about life in a small ship on the high sea. From the beginning, Calypso's adventures and her special mission evoke a spirited camaraderie on board. On leave from the Navy, my father imposes non-Navy rules: no uniform required, no distinctions of rank. Deckhands are called professor, professors are called mister, and a contest is begun for the funniest hat. Though principally a research vessel, Calypso is also a family home. Friends serve as temporary crew. Parties turn to expeditions. It is at a party in Paris where my father first met Simone Melchior, my mother, in 1936. Naturally, he was filming even the night he first saw his future wife. Their wedding a year later is a naval affair. He is an officer. She comes from 3 generations of French admirals. Soon we are a naval family. My father now involved in the war, my mother raising my younger brother Philippe and I in occupied France. Now about Calypso. Family life and ocean exploration mix. My mother is probably the first female scuba diver. My father teaches me to dive at age 7. Philippe first dives at 4. Our family's second home is the sea itself. Philippe and I are schooled in the family business. Grew up as members not only of a family, but of a pioneering team.
On an early dive near the island of Crete, old and new come face to face. A Greek sponge diver plods upright in lead boots. Cousteau's men glide horizontally, weightless and free. Calypso's lead diver, Albert Falco, decides to introduce the helmet diver to the future. The Greek has never seen such paraphernalia. At first, the sponge diver's instincts betray him. He forgets to breathe underwater.